Throughout the course of history, superstition has played a significant role in perpetuating the notion that inherent differences exist among people based on their skin color or social status. This has resulted in grave injustices such as racism and slavery. To comprehend the extent of these beliefs, we will examine various myths and religious traditions from antiquity. The ancient Greek poet Ovid recounts a creation myth in which the deity Phaethon loses control of his father Helios's horse-drawn chariot. Meanwhile, Helios's swift horses kick at the gates, emitting fiery snorts. This chaos turns realms and nations into ashes, causing the Ethiopian skin to darken due to the intense heat, drawing their blood closer to the surface. An illustration of such discriminatory beliefs can be found in the writings of the Greek philosopher Aristotle, who, despite being hailed as an enlightened thinker, asserted that certain humans are inherently inferior and therefore fit for enslavement. He believed that some should govern while others should be ruled, deeming it both necessary and expedient, predetermined from birth. In Hinduism, the caste system forms a social structure that segregates individuals into higher and lower classes. This system is rooted in Hindu scriptures, which teach that every person is born with a specific inherent nature or mode. These modes determine their duties and social status. The caste system endorses the duties of the Brahmana, priestly class, Kshatriya, warrior class, Vaishya, merchant class, and Shudra, service class. This structure remains deeply ingrained, influencing professions, marriages, and societal interactions. The historical association between darker skin tones and lower castes has led to severe discrimination and persecution. The notion of light-skinned superiority over dark skin is apparent not only in societal biases, but also in artistic representations of Hindu deities. Gods are often depicted as light or blue-skinned, while dark skin is reserved for malevolent incarnations like Kali. While exceptions exist, such as the depiction of Krishna with dark skin, they are scarce compared to light-skinned portrayals. Even respected figures like Mahatma Gandhi were not immune to these prejudices. Gandhi supported racial segregation during South Africa's apartheid era and expressed the belief that the white race should predominate. Such attitudes are also echoed in religious texts like the Old Testament, where a vague mark placed on Cain is devoid of racial implications. In summary, throughout history, superstitions have fueled the divisive idea that people possess inherent disparities due to their skin color or social status. These beliefs have spurred grave injustices such as racism and slavery. The examination of various myths and religious teachings underscores the persistence of discriminatory notions across cultures and time periods. Yet, Joseph Smith, the originator of the Mormon Church, perceived the mark differently, attributing it to dark skin. Enoch also witnessed the descendants of Adam, a blend of all Adam's offspring except those from Cain's line, who were described as having black skin and were excluded. This racist perspective persisted in the Mormon Church until fairly recent times. Another illustration comes from the book of Genesis in the Old Testament, recounting the curse of Ham. While the passage itself isn't inherently about race, some rabbis and Christian groups have given it racial connotations. The Babylonian Talmud elaborates on this, suggesting that Ham's son Canaan was afflicted with black skin due to a violation involving his father. This interpretation isn't universally accepted among Jews, yet it's important to recognize that in Orthodox Judaism, the Babylonian Talmud holds significant authority. Similarly, the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses also adopted a racial interpretation of the curse, associating it with the origin of the black race. In the New Testament, there are explicit instances of passages bearing racial implications. One such example involves Jesus referring to the Canaanites, a non-Jewish group, as dogs. When a Canaanite woman seeks his help for her afflicted daughter, Jesus initially states he was sent only for the lost sheep of Israel. He likens the woman to a dog when she pleads further. This portrayal is inconsistent with the view of Jesus in Islam, where he's revered as a righteous prophet of God. To summarize, Joseph Smith's interpretation of the mark, along with Enoch's vision, diverged into the notion of dark skin as a sign. The Mormon Church upheld this racially biased perspective until the late 20th century. In the Old Testament, the curse of Ham has been interpreted racially by certain groups, despite the passage itself lacking explicit racial connotations. Both Orthodox Judaism and Jehovah's Witnesses have embraced interpretations tying Canaan's curse to black skin. In the New Testament, racial implications arise through Jesus' exchanges with non-Jewish individuals. However, it's essential to recognize that these interpretations vary among different faiths and their adherents. Here's another example from the New Testament. In the following passage, a curse involving blood is said to have been pronounced upon the Jewish people for their role in crucifying Jesus. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" Pilate asked. They all answered, "Crucify him." Pilate washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." All the people answered, "His blood is on us and on our children." Throughout history, this passage has been used by the Church to rationalize its persecution of the Jewish community. Several popes enacted discriminatory measures against Jews, exemplified by Pope Paul IV, who restricted them to ghettos, prohibited certain professions, and mandated distinctive attire. In his statements, he echoed the concept of the blood curse by implying that Jews were responsible for their own enslavement. Viewers who adhere to Catholicism might dismiss these remarks as relics of the past. However, within Roman Catholic theology, the doctrine of papal infallibility asserts that the Pope cannot err when teaching matters of faith or morals. Thus, from a Catholic standpoint, such anti-Semitic decrees are considered divinely sanctioned. Even atheists who might deride these superstitions and scriptural instances, along with their racial and societal ramifications, shouldn't feel overly confident. Racism and discrimination are human issues that transcend religious boundaries. Secular science has also been misused to validate these injustices. Charles Darwin, recognized as the founder of evolution, promoted white supremacy in his work, The Descent of Man. Similarly, the pseudoscience of phrenology, which links skull shapes to intelligence, was employed to justify the continued enslavement of black individuals during the 19th century. In the 20th century, Africans were subjected to dehumanizing treatment and displays, like the human zoos that exhibited them as if they were animals. It wasn't until 1958 that the last human zoo closed in Belgium. Even before the spread of Islam, pre-Islamic Arabs established a class hierarchy based on tribal lineage, placing black slaves at the lowest rung of society. This highlights that racism and discrimination are deeply ingrained human problems that have manifested across cultures, eras, and belief systems. Amidst this backdrop of attitudes reflected in brutal treatment, the Quran emerged as a guiding light, aiming to extricate people from the darkness of ignorance. It proclaimed, "O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of God is the most righteous of you." The Quran advanced the revolutionary notion that human worth derives from actions, not skin color or tribal affiliation. In his poignant farewell sermon, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, exhorted his followers to transcend racism and discrimination, stating, "All of mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor does a non-Arab have any superiority over an Arab. A white person has no superiority over a black person, nor does a black person have any superiority over a white person, except by piety and good action." Islam's commitment to human equality is not mere lip service. It is manifest in practical measures at all levels of the faith. During the annual Hajj pilgrimage, millions of people from diverse nationalities and races stand united in worship, equal before God. Historian Professor Arnold Toynbee noted that the extinguishing of racial consciousness among Muslims is an exceptional moral achievement of Islam. In today's world, the propagation of this Islamic virtue is greatly needed. This video illustrates that throughout history, superstitions surrounding race and social status have been widespread, present in almost every religion and culture. Racism and inequality expose the human element in such systems, demonstrating their man-made nature. Islam stands apart as a beacon, untainted by such evils. This distinction attests to its divine origin, transcending human prejudices and embodying the wisdom of the Creator.
If you found this video enjoyable, please consider liking and sharing it. Additionally, subscribing to this channel will ensure that you receive more updates in the future. Thank you.